Production presents Live at the Shed.
Ahoy hoy and welcome to a very special Live at the Shed. I'm in the shed with Neil. Hello.
Hello, Pav. How are you?
I'm very excited.
It is
Now, I don't normally do proper sort of startups and sort of intros for these things, but I have to say that our next guest, he's gold. He is. Now, that's true. Hey! Yeah. Now, to cut a long story short...
Come on, keep going.
No, I can't. That's all I could do. Please let me introduce the one and only Steve Norman from Spandau Ballet. Hello.
How you doing, guys?
Oh, we're doing very, very well.
Very good. You should have come up with some obscure ones. Like once more, I'm going to say it again.
No, very good. Yeah, that was only. I just thought about that just as we was about to start, and I thought, oh, there were the only three I could think of just off the top of my head. It's lovely to talk to you, Steve. To start with,
it's great to talk to you.
Thank you. Now, I wanted to start. It's really weird because my wife and I on Saturday night, we don't normally have a Saturday night together, and we were sat watching Now That's What I Call Music channel.
Okay.
And it was the best of the 80s.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, to cut a long story short, come on.
There's a new one.
Yeah. And it was weird because out of all the Spandau Ballet songs that you can think of the top of your head, that's one of the ones. Yeah, but it was one thing that struck me was obviously the fashion. You led the fashion in the 80s, didn't you? Or you started fashion.
We can't claim that at all. But I mean, if I can just fill you in with a little history there,
absolutely,
with how Spandau came about, how that whole that movement that we kind of musically as a band spearheaded, it became known as New Romantics. But I mean, it was awful when it did get that name. We all decided to run for cover. You know, we thought it was terrible. But prior to that, we'd had punk. And, myself and Gary in particular, and Steve Dagger, who became our manager, we sort of stumbled on or Steve heard about it and said, come and check this band out. This was in 1976 or 7. And it was the Sex Pistols. And their gig was at the Screen on the Green in Islington, where we grew up and went to school. And the set list, the bands that were playing is phenomenal, really. Opened with the Buzzcocks, then the Clash, and then the Sex Pistols.
Wow.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and we thought that was like, wow. And I think we were even still wearing flares in 1976, But it was already going. It was already running. We'd kind of like jumped on the coattails of it. And then it all sort of fizzled out as punk did, because there was no future, apparently, that there was no sort of plans to really for it to evolve into anything. But the people, there was a lot of sort of kids that wanted to do something with their lives. And with that ethos of anyone can pick up a guitar and make music, but they wanted to create a future. And they became like this interim it wasn't even a movement, wasn't that big, but as a fashion look, they became peacock punks, because they started looking back to the people that influenced them in the first place as far as dressing up was concerned, not dressing down, and that was David Bowie. So David Bowie had he was very responsible for that whole movement, which then kind of just evolved into what became New Romanticism. So we can't claim any of that really, but we us and a lot of other bands, Boy George and Steve Strange, and and also designers, John Galliano and Stephen Jones, a milliner, hat maker, loads of people that are still doing it now. In fashion, in whatever of the arts, came from that scene, that hotbed of creativity in the late 70s. So we can't claim that, but we were, in fact, the house band of the movement.
Yeah. Did you actually keep any of your, I want to say costumes, but your outfits from the 80s?
I did. I've kept practically all of it. I think I gave something away to charity, but the only thing I regret not having is the kilt. I wore a kilt when it was. We were all looking. You mentioned to cut.
That was to cut a long story short.
That's exactly right. And there was a designer called Willie Brown at the time, and he had a shop in Shoreditch, and it wasn't as kind of as cool an area as it is now. It was probably the only cool thing about the whole area. And he drew a lot of influence from Scotland and mixed it up into some kind of, I don't know. I would mix stuff with I don't know, even weird sort of Russian looks, and you'd mix and match everything. But that whole Scottish influence definitely took on in the whole scene. And sadly, that kilt was one of the few things that when I did dig it out, as you do over the years, to put it in another box, it was covered in webs, and and I was gutted about that, because that was kind of what certainly Spandau were known for at the time, was our kilt. Even though I will say I was the only one that wore one. But
I did notice that.
Skirts that the others have worn, I have to say.
Yeah. Have you ever been tempted to get one of them out, and when you're on tour again, is to come out wearing one?
Well, yeah, I think the kilt thing would be quite funny. It's still, for people that do remember, it's just a little nod.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It'll look good. Yeah, and I wouldn't wear anything underneath it, of course. You don't, do you?
No, you're not allowed to, is it?
No, obviously, when you started and when Spandau Ballet really took off, you were, like you say, you were part of the new romantic movement, if you like. But one of the things that I think set you apart and Duran Duran was you also had the songs to back it up.
Well,
and that's what gave you the longevity as well. So when it came to, we've spoken to a few people that were like very successful in the 80s and the 90s and that, and when you were in the middle of that, and you were one of the biggest bands, definitely in England, but I would assume in the world, do you realise what's actually going on around you, or are you in like a little bubble?
Yeah, well, at the beginning you certainly do. That bubble thing becomes a little bit more solid, or if you like, later on, and then you're wrapped up in the sort of tour album thing, and you take your eyes off the ball. There's no doubt about it. And before you know it, dance music has kicked in, and you're not flavour of the month anymore.
Right.
You don't realise when that happens. It just suddenly is, and it's like, oh, what happened there then? And you have to reevaluate everything. But at the beginning, of course, you're very much flying the crest of a wave, and you got your moment. It was definitely our moment, and that whole movement, and it opened up a lot of doors. Not just for us, of course. Well, I think we helped open those doors. That's the thing, and as did other people from that scene. It was a weird thing. The Blitz, the club that really was where we managed to express ourselves, and from where. Other bands like designers who I've said, and other artists and that all came from, because Boy George and stuff, and we would go down there and we would really just get drunk and put the world to rights, and all those conversations that you had, normally you would forget them next day, and they would get lost in a hangover. But we actually remembered the stuff, and we did things about it. That was the difference. It was so creative, that period, and it was we were invincible, and we were drawing our influences sartorically, clothes-wise, from whatever sources, because it really was. You could anything was possible. And the Bowie, of course, that we always had that Bowie line, you can be a hero even just for one day, and it was dress up for one day, because next day you'll be dressing up as something else.
Right.
Can I jump, Steve, if it's possible, right back well before Spandau Ballet, and ask you what inspired you, or what made you pick up any sort of musical instrument and start the journey into music?
Well, I was my earliest memories, really, besides showing off as a 2-year-old, as a playing a little toy guitar. I have a memory of that, and being my dad taking the telly off where it was, given that the telly was only a little one back then, back in 1962. In fact, I don't even think we had a telly, because there was an alcove in this little flat that they had, and he lifted me up, and I would put on a little show in my cowboy hat and the guns and the little toy guitar. That's the earliest sort of memory of performance that I can remember. Besides that, when I think it was I must have been a very early teenager. No, it was earlier than that. It was in the 60s. And my mother used to drop me at her brother's house while she went off working. And I used to, like I did at home, I just used to go through everybody's record collections. I think we all do that, don't we, when we're up? And those things formed me to a big extent. One of the first ones was at my Uncle Jim's, and he was a big lover of the Shadows. And I was a big sort of into percussion at the time. I loved percussion and drums. Thought I was going to be a drummer, but could never afford a kit and stuff. So I would absorb these albums from the Shadows. Got the guitar of Hank Marvin, of course, but it was Brian Bennett, the drummer, and I used to be able to play all these solos even before I was even a teenager. And that was the first thing. And then it was the other side of my family. That was my mum's, my dad's side of the family. They used to hold these parties, and their record collection was like Stevie Wonder and Tamla Motown and Tighten Up records, and Trojan records and all the black stuff. So I got very much influenced by soul music and Tamla Motown. Still, for me, that's one of that. If it wasn't for Tamla, I don't think I got through my teenage years. It just made me feel so happy and ecstatic, if you like, and it still does. So those are what shaped me. I mean, as far as playing an instrument is concerned, my guitar is my first instrument. Because I couldn't afford a drum kit. And then I went off with Spandau because we started exploring sort of the percussion side of things in 1981. And I looked around, I thought, there's a little window here of opportunity. I'll make the band buy me some congas, and that's exactly what happened. And I'm very, very happy about the conga work. I love a bit of Latin Fury now and then. Which kind of makes me feel satisfied having never having a set of drum kit.
So when carry on.
Yeah, the sax was because I'd gone on to the percussion, and I thought, well, I've had enough of that. I'll do it, but I want to also go back to the guitar. And Gary Kemp, he sort of kind of filled in all the gaps. So he was then playing. When we first started, me and Gary formed the band, so we wanted to write songs together. We wanted to be guitarists in the same band together. We were best mates at school. We went to see all in the very early sort of 70s. We went to all the places where we could see live music and cut our teeth going to see AC/DC in Wardour Street and in the Marquee and God knows how many other bands, different genres of music. So anyway, he stepped in there. We were always the two guitarists, like right, it's my turn for a solo now, and it's your turn, and we respected that. But as soon as I had the congas, he just didn't respect it anymore. So I thought, right, sod you, I'll find another one. I'll find another melodic instrument, and that's that. And it was the sax. It very nearly was a trumpet.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was. It was, or a flugelhorn, in fact. It was a friend of mine, Chris Sullivan. I don't know if you know Chris, because he's a very big face on the Blitz scene, which I was speaking about. Also, he was a lead singer of Blue Ronda a la Turk. Also, he's a fantastic artist, journalist, and now he still does all these things. And he's a DJ, rare funk grooves and all those kind of things. And he's written a book as well. Anyway, so he said to me once, I've got a trumpet. He's Welsh. I'm going to really try not to. But he said, come and play this, see what you think of it. And I got a couple of sort of notes out of it. So I thought, well, I could go there. But then what kind of flexibility does a trumpet have? Whereas the saxophone, you can do it with most genres of music. It was popular at the time, and the ladies love it.
Exactly. So, the solo in True would have sounded really different if it had been a trumpet or a flugelhorn. Yeah. It might not have had the same kind of coolness to it as the.
You never hear of a flugelhorn solo, do you?
Talking about the gigs, you say you're an avid gig goer when you were younger. Can you remember what the very first gig was that you went to see?
Yeah, I do. It was went to see Slade at Hammersmith Odeon.
Slade,
wow. In 1974. But they weren't the first band I saw because it was the support band.
Right.
about that. But that was a band I went to see. It was Beckett. They were the support band. I think there was a band called Mountain, and I liked Mountain. And I remember Rolling Thunder or something. I'm not sure if that was Beckett or Mountain now, but thought that was great. That opened up a few things, and then got into Quo swiftly after that. And Bowie was always there. He was my big idol at the time, although I never went to see him back then.
Oh, right.
It was Slade, but Bowie's the man. I mean, Bowie just cuts through everything. And it's since he's gone, he's passed, that it's been, I've realised, as I think a lot of people have realised, and why he's missed so much and mourned so much is because of the impact he's had to different degrees on most people's lives. Incredible. I don't think that he's a one-off, wasn't he? He was just an artist across the board. You rarely get that uniqueness as far as art is concerned, but he did it all. The man did it all.
And with so many different images and reinventing himself so many times.
Well, yes, but also, he was also a really talented painter. He was, it was reinvention. It was, but he could turn his art to whatever medium. That's the thing. He could just do the whole lot, acting, whatever the arts is a big umbrella, but under that he just moved around a lot. Did
you ever get to hang out with Bowie at Live Aid?
I would love to say, I hung out with Bowie at Live Aid. I did meet him at Live Aid. I met him a couple of times. It was there. It was at Bob Geldof and Paulie Yates' wedding. Bless her. So he was there. But, I only had it was just a bit of small talk because I was so nervous.
Right.
He was my hero and I didn't know what to say. When you clam up. And it was a bit of that going on. And forever to this day, I mean, I wish that I could have. I noticed one of your questions that you were potentially going to ask me. Is there anyone alive or dead that you would like to have performed with? And he's the man.
Right.
He was always the man. When he went, it was like, oh my God! I was getting closer as well. I performed with most of his band.
Right.
One way or another,
You could have had dueling saxophones, couldn't you, as well? Because he could play the sax as well. Imagine that.
The thing is, I've read that, I didn't know this until recently since he passed, but I read that he was really honest about his sax playing, because you could hear that it was a certain innocence, naivety about it. And I always put that down. I kind of bigged him up on it. It was like, I knew it sounded sometimes a bit out of tune or whatever, but it's like, no, it's that naive style, that naive approach. Like when you paint, there's a naive approach. It looks like some kid has painted it, Not, it's a bit unfair because he could play, but he admitted that it's a battle that he had with the horn, that he couldn't win ever. It always got better of him. But since I've been playing all these things, and I've played with Tony Visconti and a few years ago with Woody Woodmansey from the Spiders from Mars, and that whole Man Who Fell to Earth album, we did that. I did Station to Station with El Slick this year. A couple of days ago I was at Brixton with the celebrating David Bowie event, with all most of the band, the last band that he had that are all still around. Mike Garson, who played, of course, on Lady Grinning Soul and all these Aladdin Sane, that period, 73. I got to share a stage with those guys, just as a guest, really, doing the Sanborn sax part of Young Americans,
Wow. So
that's made up. I'm a fan of music. And I tell people, I just love those times when and appreciate those times that I'm in a place where I can relive those moments that were like, I don't know, they were nowhere near me when I was a kid. You just dream about those things, and then all of a sudden I'm doing this thing at the front of the stage with Gail Dorsey, who was singing Young Americans, who was on the last tour, who I have so much respect for, as I do for all the other instrumentalists there, But what I was saying to her, with the saxophone and Bowie's playing, he didn't he said he never got a hold of it, but once you actually attempt to learn what he's done on the sax, you realise how difficult it is. The songwriting and that, they sound so simple, his songs, but they're far from it. They move about in a way which is kind of tricky as a musician unless you're right on it. It's not as simple. They're not as simple as you think. That's a stroke. That's a sign of a genius. I don't like to use that word genius too much. There's no doubt about it. Bowie was one.
Yeah, it's interesting what you were saying about playing on stage with some of your heroes and music that means a lot to you. Does that make you appreciate people that hold songs like True and Gold into it means so much to them from their childhood?
For sure, yeah, it does. Well, I mean, I think I'm speaking for the rest of the band here. Whenever we play True or Gold, we know that those tunes mean so much to people, and we never bore it. I never tire of it.
I was going to ask: has there ever been a point where you've gone, "Oh my God, we've got to sing True again"? Has there ever been a point?
Absolutely not.
Right.
Every time we do it, it's different. Really, it is different a little bit. I mean, I'm lucky, I guess, more than anyone in the band, because what I play sax-wise, as long as I play the True solo pretty close, then that's fine. But the rest of all the other stuff, I sit on top, with the sax, so I can move around and I can experiment, and and it's a little bit. It's a little bit freer for me. If you're Martin, the bass player, he sticks on it. He's more grounded and all that. But no one ever tires of that. I've never tired of it. I'm asked to do it, even myself. I sing it and that at various events when people ask.
Yeah.
Because of course, when it's required, and they're always different. All the versions are different. It's a great song. Gary Kemp is a great songwriter, and I think, he's done well there.
Yeah. So when you were recording the song, did you know you were on to something when you were doing it?
When we were rehearsing the song, we didn't even realise that it was going to be something special. It was one of the later songs, if I remember rightly. We were working on sort of more up-tempo stuff. And then we had that rehearsed, and then we went to record it in the Bahamas. In I forget his name, Chris Blackwell. Chris Blackwell from Island Records had a studio out there called Compass Point, and so we went out there and recorded it. And Tom Club were there at the same time, so we bumped into them, and I think this is really a great way to record that kind of album. It was our Blue Eyed Soul album, and it was quite relaxed. So 2 weeks in the Bahamas was so laid back. There's no doubt about it. It sort of imprinted on that record, and even then, when we were recording it, we didn't quite know that it was something special. It was just feedback that people were telling us. And there is one instance. We put a film together a couple of years ago, and there's quite a lot of sort of home footage, and there was some cine stuff from back then recording. And there's one point where when we're just listening to a playback, it wasn't finished by no means, and it's just us in the studio, sitting behind the desk, just singing along to it. And I think, if anything, that time when we were actually doing that, that's when I personally thought, you know what, this is a bit of a sing-along song. It wasn't. No way could anyone preempt a classic. It was going to become as classic. But then Gold was like that.
Yeah.
When Gold was released, it didn't go to the top. I think we were held off by come on, give it up. Oh, baby.
Oh, Casey and the Sunshine Band.
Exactly, yeah. And if I'm not wrong, he was outselling us by like 2-1. We thought we were going to get number one. So we never got number one. But people, we always felt, even when we were writing Gold, we felt more confident about that being a hit than True when we were recording that. Because we thought it was like a potential Bond song. And it was probably the Bond theme that never was, That's what we thought. But since then, it's taken on some life of its own. I know the Olympics has a lot to do with these things, but it's become like a bit of an anthem, especially with guys. True's probably picked up more with women, but the guys have got gold, and they're not letting it go. Yeah,
yeah. You're obviously performing in the heyday of Top of the Pops. Now you must have some great memories from Top of the Pops.
Well, I mean, your first thing is, as a kid growing up in that era, I mean, you're too young, you guys, I can see.
No, definitely not. No, we can remember the heyday of Top of the Pops.
Yeah.
But you know what it's like? It's like, it's you have this image, don't you? When you watch it, and you think, oh my God, that must be amazing to go on Top of the Pops. You know, what's it like? You get there, and like anything in life, it's an overused thing that I always say these days. Everything's smoke and mirrors. It's never as good as you think it is. You go to a club or whatever, or I would do a gig. In the next day, if you walk in there in the daytime, it's like some of these places are just. Where did they make that look like some kind of fantastic, I don't know, mothership or whatever? Yeah. You know, how'd they do that? It's the same with Top of the Pops. You know, you go in there and there's only like that little group of people, and then for the next artist, they move them over. It's just a scuzzy studio. It was just disappointing. And everyone that's been on Top of the Pops and had a conversation about it says the same thing. It's like, oh, what a disappointment that is. You know. But of course, once you get over that, it's still special, and it was special. And I think they're bringing it back. I mean, that's what I'm looking at.
Well, rumour has it, hasn't it? They're saying, fingers crossed, because it's something TV misses now. I mean, MTV has sort of lost its void of what it does.
Long time ago,
and so it needs something. It needs something like Top of the Pops.
I agree with you, but I think what really was the nail in the coffin for Top of the Pops was videos, because people wanted their videos on, and they, and a lot of the time they insisted on it. So we had a resurgence of all of a sudden there were these programs that were just playing videos that didn't need the artist to turn up. And then we lost these, even if it was miming, we lost them turning up, you know. I think we're due for that. We like it, don't we?
We do. Yeah. It's nothing like seeing... I mean, I can remember... This shows my age. I can remember seeing Spandau Ballet on Top of the Pops for the first time. I can remember seeing Duran Duran and seeing Culture Club, and then going, "Now is that a man or a woman? I don't understand what's going on," you know. Yeah. And it was magical every Thursday, looking to see, and being disappointed because the song you wanted to see wasn't on this week, and
wasn't on it.
And the charts were more relevant then. I mean, it's an age thing. I don't know who's in the top 40 these days, but it was an event every Thursday, making sure you watched to see who was in the top 10.
Absolutely, and even going back to like Radio 1 in this country, that was our network radio. And what was refreshing, what was good, looking back on it, was that you had such an eclectic mix of stuff. So, and Top of the Pops, of course. So you could be just before or just after the St. Winifred's School Choir, who would immediately go to number one.
Or Clive Dunn singing Grandad.
See? That's it. But that's what's good about it, because it opens your eyes.
Absolutely.
So if you're only going up there to watch one, to look at one style of music, then that's what it is now. Everyone's pigeonholed, and that's it. That's all you get, isn't it? That style. You're not exposed to different genres of music like you used to when we were growing up.
I completely agree. I'm going to take a question off of our list. So I want to know your guilty pleasure song. Do you have a particular song that other people maybe turn their nose up at, or?
I don't believe in the guilty pleasure thing.
Right.
I think it's no. Because why is it guilty? Why can't I go, you know what, I love the Bee Gees. And I remember in the 80s, late 80s, it wasn't cool to like the Bee Gees.
No, that's right.
Certainly wasn't cool to like ABBA. But me and my mate, we used to go to football, I remember, and on the way he would pick me up and he would cue, my mate Deuce, and he would cue a tune. He knew everything about pop music, and he said, listen to this. And he would put on like a Bee Gees song or the name of the game. And you have to listen to it. You work that out. The name of the game, it's got like a pre-chorus, which is like you'd have been fine for that pre-chorus to have been the chorus, but then there's another bit, and it's just so well crafted.
Yeah,
but just not cool at the time. So I think all that is, we got to dispose of all that stuff. There's no guilty pleasures. There's only pleasures.
And that's one of my favourite ABBA songs, The Name of the Game. I love that song. I love that song.
Yeah. And I like, I like Thank You for the Music as well. A bit sloppy, but I did like it.
Yeah. So, Steve, a question I've got for you then. With the successes you've had, what advice would you give your younger self or young and up-and-coming musicians now?
Christ. Well, I mean, besides all the legal stuff, make sure you know what you're signing. Because you don't when you're younger, do you? You just want to get on with it.
Yeah.
But it will come back to bite you. So very much get that sorted out. But oh Christ, just advice. It sounds a bit corny, doesn't it? Follow your dream and all that. But unless you fight and you keep going, it's not going to happen if you're good enough, if you feel you're good enough. But be honest with yourself. If you're not good enough, then cover your ass. It's not very good information, really, is it? But, there's a lot of pitfalls in the business, and especially these days, it's tricky for people for people that want to make money from music. It's very difficult. We're in a state of flux. I think it's probably healthier now than it's been for the last couple of years, if I'm honest. At least record companies are running out of things like Spotify and that, but the musician is still far down the food chain in a way, and a lot of people still need to still feel that music is free and it's the value from music. So I think we need to re-educate people and just show people that we musicians. I sit over there, and I'm there all the time. Just writing songs or whatever. But you're working. You don't get paid for that. It's all sort of like conjecture, isn't it? It's all sort of. It's all betting, really.
Yeah. It's one of the only professions that people seem to think that they can get something for nothing. That they don't have to pay you for your work.
That's right. Well, that's right. Yeah,
you can't get a plumber to come in and go, "Can you do that for me?" I'm not going to pay you. I just I wanted you to give you the opportunity to come and plumb. You don't.
You would never dream of asking, would you?
That's right, and you'll get plumbing experience.
Exactly. Yes. We'll have an open plumbing night, and you can come in and you can come and plumb for like half an hour.
I'll tell everybody what a great plumber you are.
Exactly. Dear.
So education, that's it. We all need to educate people about the value of music.
That's a great one.
And obviously, I was just going to say, on regards to that, the live scene at the moment is huge.
Yeah, that's right.
Isn't it? I mean, gig going now is a massive, massive thing.
Yeah.
So,
it's had to be, really, because that is the only way that musicians will earn money. They're not earning it from recorded music,
exactly.
No.
Which would affect things like albums. Unless you're an established artist, it affects your time in the studio. Because why are you going to be in the studio for 6 months paying for something you're never going to get any returns from?
Absolutely.
Unless you're established. So, but then, on the other side, it's easier and cheaper to make music. Logic, I use Logic myself. And keep it really minimal. And the only time when I step up is when I go to record it for good, in a proper studio. But things sound really good on that 150 quid or whatever it is that it is to buy that program.
Yeah, I mean we've had local acts here in the shed that we've heard their albums that they that they've recorded it basically in their bedroom and they sound amazing.
Right. Yeah, great for them. For them, and I'm very happy in that side. There's always a sort of balance with these things. Sad for the established studios, and also the engineers. And I know engineers personally that they were pulling in quite a bit. Well, maybe an album a year, let's say, but they could be pulling in 30, 40 grand a year for an album. And now they don't get anything.
No, that's right. Yeah.
So one has to look about other ways of monetizing. I mean, it's not all about the money, but we all have to live.
Exactly, absolutely. Right, we're coming to the end of our time, so I'm going to ask you the last question that we normally ask on our movie heaven, on our music heaven. One album. If there's one album that you could take to your little white cloud and listen to over and over again, what album would it be?
Well, I'm going to hark back to Bowie on this one again. I mean, there are many, but you've just said it. There has to be one. So I'm going to say Aladdin Sane, I think. Especially because it's very current as well.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think everybody's got a favourite Bowie album, haven't they?
I would say so. Yeah, I mean, I was more in the 80s on Modern Love and Let's Dance and stuff like that. But I have started getting back into his. I've got like his back catalogue, so I'm sort of getting into it. And like,
mine's Hunky Dory. Because that's the one I grew up listening to, and
brilliant.
Yeah, I love that album.
Yeah, it's until because a lot of people know Bowie, but they know his hits, don't they? And it's until you start delving in that you realise quite just the breadth and width of what he did.
Of what he did, yeah,
it's amazing.
I mean, Ziggy Stardust was probably the first one for me, but that was more with Mick Ronson, who a big, massive fan of Mick Ronson. But it's something about Aladdin Sane, which it was less sort of guitar based, it was more keyboards and Mike Garson, and that was a Bowie thing to Mike Garson, who I played with the other night, so I just let that slip. and he just said, no, I want you to be really, really avant-garde, and he didn't play like that at the time, but he made him do it for Aladdin Sane. And I just remember at the time thinking, this is the most weird, otherworldly sound I've ever heard. And it stayed with me to this day. You hear it now, and it's like it still feels like it comes from another planet.
Yeah, absolutely, and still sounds fresh as well. Still sounds fresh, which is great.
Lady Grinning Soul.
Steve, I must ask a quick question then. What's next for yourself and Spandau Ballet?
Well, I mean, I don't know if you know, but I mean, we're in a bit of flux at the moment. Spandau, we lost our lead singer. He's decided to focus on other things, his solo career, really. So it's kind of left us in the lurch. He don't look like he's going to be coming back for a few years. But we just done the most amazing tour, world tour, and a film, and we were all ready to go. So his timing couldn't have been worse, to be honest. And we want to do stuff.
Yeah.
I don't want to wait until I'm 60 before doing it again, and I don't think the rest of the band do. But I can't really define exactly what that means right now. But in the meantime, I'm writing, I'm working with other people, I'm keeping active, and I'm very happy about that.
Wonderful. Do you have a website that you put your stuff on? Or
blog? I do have a blog, but there's not much. I mean, it's more sort of like what I do. I say not much. Beg your pardon. It's like my Sabrina manages it, and she does a fantastic job. But I mean, it's not like all the things I've ever done. It's more like a blog thing where you all the things I'm doing. It's more sort of live stuff, And she also records a lot of live Facebook stuff, which is really good to see, and puts all that up there.
Excellent.
People love that these days, don't they?
Yes, we do that quite a bit.
Now, isn't it? You just got to let it go and be open, and okay, if it sounds shit, then too bad. It's
exactly. Well, we'll get the address for that, and we'll put that on the podcast show notes so that people can click onto that. And
they're already listening because we put something on earlier on.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, Steve, it's been a real pleasure and an honour to speak to you.
An absolute
really
joy.
has.
It really has.
Thank you
really,
ever so much.
Thank you. No, it's my pleasure. I love doing this, and sorry if I speak too much.
Oh no, that's what you're here for. Yeah. That's what it makes our job so much easier because we don't have to say anything. So, So thank you very much, Steve.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Thank you very much,
Neil. Guys. Catch up with you soon.
Take care. Thank you. Bye bye. Thank you very much, Neil.
Thank you very much, Pav.
And we'll see you all again soon. Thank you. Bye bye. Ahoy hoy Pancasters, it's Pavo here, and I'm just here to tell you that we are now on Patreon. That's right, if you want to come and give us some of your lovely money, we're quite happy to take it, but we're not going to take it for nothing. We're going to give you some rewards, and rewards that will go from just getting your name on our Pancast Pal Roll of Honour. You could even maybe get a shout out on one of our podcasts or YouTube videos. Or how about we even record a personalised video greeting for you? Or you could even challenge a friend to a game of movie fight night over Skype that we will host. All of the information for all of the rewards are on www.patreon.com/pancast. Pledges start from just $1. That's about 75p in old money. Every single penny will be gladly received, and we will love you forever, and you'll officially become Pancast pals. So that's www.patreon.com/pancast. Come and join the fun.